Shabbat, Shalom, Happy Sabbath. And perhaps it's unusual to hear someone say Shabbat, Shalom on a Sunday. But today is Shavuot, that we call the Feast of Pentecost. And we have heeded Yah's word to come and to bring glory to him by way of his word and to reason with him. The subject we have today is Tzedek Goel Hadam. That simply means the righteous redeemer of blood. So the prefix here as printed in your program, is equivalent to the English the word the. It is attached to nouns to make them more specific and more definitive. In the Hebrew, HA is the equivalent to the. So it is the definitive. So we have the Tzedek, the righteous, Goel, redeemer, or the avenger of blood. That is our subject today that we would like to meditate on, to dilate in such a way that we will be better people for knowing Yah's mind as he has reduced that to print form in the word. And the medium through which we will look at that, the periscope, is the book of Ruth. And the intent is that we would first look at the exegesis, what the word says. Read the word as it is printed. Then it will be punctuated by expositional thoughts. And of course, we want it to make sense to us existentially, so we want to look at how it relates to us, its existential relevance. That's the intent today. So turn with me to the book of Ruth. The book of Ruth. This is a book of a marriage of redemption. This is about a woman who is from a pagan land. Her source is derived from an incestuous relationship that Lot's daughter had with him. And this woman rejects her pagan culture and her pagan gods so that she can come into Israel and be an Israelite. And that's fascinating, and I think this is perhaps one of the clearest examples that we see in scriptures that there is no such thing as a Gentile once you accept Yeshua as your personal Savior. So we want to look at that and bring it home in a more forceful, understandable way to those of us who are listening. The book of Ruth, chapter 1. And it came to pass in the days when the judges administered justice, that there was a famine in the land, and so a certain man went his way out of Bethlehem, Judah, to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. And the name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife was Naomi, and the name of his 2 sons was Mahlon and Chilion, Ephraimites, out of Bethlehem, Judah. So they came into the country of Moab and remained there. So the word says that there was a famine in the land. And often as you read about famine, in the word of Yah, famine sometimes come as a result of judgment on the nation for the immorality that has set in. Famine in Judah. And the man decided that he would migrate somewhere else. Brought his family, his wife, whose name means pleasant, and his name means Yah is my king. And he is doing this, saying this, at a time when there was no king in Israel. At a time when every man did that was right in his own sight. He left and he went to Moab, and he brought his sons, Marlon meaning sickness and weakness. That's what Marlon means. And his brother Chilean mean finish, wasting away. Can you imagine those young men at school? Weakness, come here. The word said that they went to Moab, of all the places that they could have gone. They went to Moab because Moab was one of those places that the children of Israel were specifically told not to have anything to do with the people there. Why he went? Because there was a famine in the land. And I want you to know at this stage that this famine is a precursor to the famine that Amos talks about in the last days, Amos 8 and verse 11. He said there will be a famine in the land, but it won't be a famine for food or water. It will be a famine for the word of Yah. And people will migrate from church to church, from priest to priest, from assembly to assembly, trying to ascertain the truth, but they won't find it, says Amos. So we understand by that that prophecy is not a prediction and a fulfillment. It is a pattern. It's a pattern. And so the family from Judah went to Moab. As such, I would like for you to turn with me to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 23. And we will read from verse 1. Neither be that hath been mutilated by crushing, nor he that hath had his privy member cut off shall enter into the convocation of Yahweh. A bastard shall not enter into the convocation of Yahweh, even to the 10th generation shall none of his enter into the convocation of Yahweh. Neither an Amorite or a Moabite shall enter into the convocation of Yahweh, even to the 10th generation shall none that belong to them enter into the convocation of Yahweh unto times abiding. The word says that the Ammonites and the Moabites were descendants of Lot, the nephew of Abraham. They cannot come into the convocation, the gathering of Yahweh. Therefore, Yah's people should keep away from them. But the word, the book of Ruth, this little book tells us that this man from Bethlehem, Judah, migrated to Moab. What is he doing there? The word said, because there was a famine in the land. That's where he went. He went to a place where there was no king, because the story here is set in the context of the times of the judges. And you can understand that after the judges, it's the king. And as I indicated earlier, that prophecy is a pattern. So we're living in the time of the judges now. Everything that people have, they take it to court. The Supreme Court must rule on this. The High Court must rule on this. And so you know that if we are in the time of the judges, the next scene is going to be the King of Glory as he comes, when the sky should be all ablaze in radiant foam, and all will see him. But I'm just giving you a foretaste of what the book of Ruth really means. It says, and Elimelech, husband of Naomi, died. And she was left, she and her 2 sons. And they took them wives of the women of Moab. They married Moabites. The name of the one was Orpah, and the name of the other Ruth. And they dwelt there about 10 years to escape the famine. Perhaps you'll ask yourself, how long will it be before people will find understanding in the word, in the famine for the word? The physical famine here was 10 years. And they both died, the sons died, Mahlon and Chilion. Then she arose, and she and her daughter-in-law, and returned out of the country of Moab. For she had heard in the country of Moab how that Yahweh had visited his people in giving unto them bread. She heard that things had improved. The economy was doing better in Bethlehem, Judah, so she decided to go home. So she went forth out of the dwelling place where she had remained, and her 2 daughters-in-law with her, and they went on the way to return unto the land of Judah. Then said Naomi to her daughters-in-law, go, return each one to the house of her mother. Go back home. Do that. I don't have any more sons for you to marry. And even if I had a husband today, you wouldn't wait for them because it doesn't make sense. Go home. And so she pleaded with them. This is the woman pleasant. But circumstances have not treated her pleasantly. She's been tried. She's lost everything. She's running away from famine, and she ended up in more famine. And sometimes we wrestle. The word says, not with flesh and blood, but with principalities and powers and beings that we cannot see, and therefore we ought to robe ourselves into the armor of Yahweh. Verse 9. Yahweh grant you that you may find a place of rest each one in the house of her husband, and she kissed them, and they lifted up their voice and wept. You could see that she had a meaningful relationship with her daughters-in-law. This is not a mother-in-law you could speak evil of. This pleasant woman left her home with her husband to go and make a better life. How many have migrated to countries, and instead of finding a better life, they find immigration policies that trouble them? And some are deported. Some do not return, like Naomi here, by her free will. But when you live with someone and they have good ways and you see their virtue, it leaves a lasting impression on you. And so it was, these daughters-in-law, they understood, they saw the charity and the principles of Naomi. And so it was a pull to leave her. Verse 12, go back, my daughters, go your own way, for I am too old to have a husband. If I should say I have hope, if I should even tonight have a husband, and should even bear sons, would you therefore tarry until they're grown? Would he therefore shut yourself up from having husbands? Nay, my daughters, for it is far more bitter for me than for you that forth hath gone against me the hand of Yahweh. He has spanked me. The passage here infers. He has treated me in a way that I had never expected. And later on, she said, don't call me pleasant, call me Mara, bitterness, because my life has been bitter. And they lifted up their voice and wept yet more. Then Hopar kissed her mother-in-law, and Ruth clave unto her. And she said, lo, thy sister-in-law had gone back to her people and her idols. Hopar went back to her idols. But Ruth had no intention of going back to any idols. Not Ruth. And so I want you to turn with me to the book of Numbers, chapter 21, and verse 29. Woe to thee, Moab. Woe. This is where Opal went back to. Woe to thee, Moab. Thou art lost, O people of Chemosh. That's their god. The god of Moab was Chemosh. He hath given up his sons as fugitives, and his daughters into captivity unto the king of the Amorites. That's where she went back to. But Ruth said, verse 16, do not urge me to leave thee, to go back from following thee, for whither thou goest, I will go, and where thou lodgest, I will lodge. Thy people, the Israelites, the Jews, shall be my people, and thy Elohim, Yahweh, my Elohim. I'm through, says Ruth, with low living, with idols, I'm going to stay with the truth. Where thou diest, I will die, and there will I be buried. So Yahweh do so to me. Notice she doesn't swear by her idol, Chemosh. She said Yahweh. And so let him had, if death itself part me and thee. Ruth says, only death can intervene between you and me. And when she saw that bravery, determined young woman, when she saw that, she ceased, stopped dissuading her and entreating her to leave her. So they went their way until they entered Bethlehem, and it came to pass when they entered Bethlehem that all the city was moved concerning them. The women said, it is Naomi. And she said unto them, do not call me Naomi, sweet, pleasant. Don't do that, because life has not treated me that way. Call me bitter. Call me Mara. For the Almighty hath dealt very bitterly with me. You see, our subject is Tzedek Goel Hadam, the righteous redeemer of blood. Hadam means blood, meaning the blood of a relative. And so the whole idea is she's going to be redeemed by the kinsman. And as you know, the ultimate kinsman for us is Yeshua HaMashiach. That's our topic today. But we're using this, as I indicated, as a periscope to look at the bigger picture. And so join me in chapter 2 of the same book. Now Naomi had an acquaintance of her husband, a man of great integrity of the family of Elimelech, whose name was Boaz. If you haven't yet been curious and struck by this book, perhaps you soon will. Because as you look at that chapter 2, and we read the first verse saying, Boaz was related to Elimelech, and you have to ask yourself, Boaz related to Elimelech? Is not Boaz father Salmon and his mother Rahab? Rahab, you mean the woman who sat on the wall of Jericho, that harlot? And the word said yes. But the word says that he is a man of integrity, and he's wealthy, distinctively so. And Ruth, the Moabitess, said unto Naomi, let me go, I pray thee, to the field, and glean ears of corn after him, in whose eyes I may find favor. And she said to her, go, my daughter, go. So she went her way and came and gleaned in the field after the reapers, and it happened to her to light upon the portion of the field land belonging to Boaz, who was of the family of Elimelech. I mean, what is the odds of that? She went out to glean in any land, and she just happened to be gleaning in the land that belongs to Boaz. We don't believe in coincidence. So this has been managed by the Ruach. We've got to understand that. And you need to understand something about the land in Israel, particularly in those times. The farmer in Israel, he was only able to pass through his land once to glean his land for the year. And anything that was left in the corner or in the field was for the destitute and for the poor. They had a welfare system that trumps the one we have here in America. And I refer to the one that was signed by Roosevelt in 1935. And even better than Sir William Beveridge, the one that was signed in England in 1942, the welfare state. This one said, and it was codified in law, that you must leave your field and don't glean from the edges. Leave that to the poor. So you understand when Yeshua said, remember the poor. But today, both in England, we see the government trying to rob the pensioners from their social security and having them pay for things that they can't afford. In America here, the big debate has been, shall we cut Social Security? And so when you see bombs raining down in Gaza, you've got to ask yourself, is there a duty of care in Gaza for the people who are poor? Is there? Because in the Word, there was such a thing. There was such a thing. So come with me to the book of Leviticus. And I'll ask you to join me at chapter 19. Leviticus chapter 19. And let's read verse 9. And when you reap the harvest of your land, thou shalt not wholly clear the border of thy field in reaping, nor shalt thou gather up the gleanings of the harvest. Verse 10, and thy vineyard shalt thou not go over again. Don't go over it again. Nor gather every single grape, for the poor and for the sojourner shalt thou leave them. Hi, Yahweh, I'm your Elohim. He says, leave some for the poor. So Ruth decides to glean. And verse 4 says, and lo, Boaz coming from Bethlehem, and he said to the reapers, Yahweh be with you. And they said to him, Yahweh bless you. Then said Boaz to him, young man that was set over the reapers, who is the maiden? And the young man that was set over the reapers answered and said, the Moabitish maiden is she who came back with Naomi out of the country of Moab. She's gleaning with us. And she said, let me glean, I pray thee, and gather among the sheaves after the reapers. So she came in and hath continued from that time all the morning until now, just now, and hath not rested in the house a while. She's a hard worker. She's not lazy. And so her name is noised abroad. She's a good worker. And she's a good helper because she helped her mother-in-law, Naomi. And Boaz said unto Ruth, hearest thou not, my daughter? Do not go to the glean in the other field, and neither indeed shall thou pass on from hence, but here shalt thou keep fast by my maiden. Stay in my land. Thine eyes be on the field which thou shalt reap, and go thou after them. Have I not commanded the young men that they should touch thee not? I've told them not to touch thee. Then she fell upon her face and showed obedience or obeisance to him. That's what happened here. And the word says, she gleaned from the barley harvest until Shavuot, to the wheat harvest. She worked. But this woman, Naomi, she's a wise woman, you know, very wise woman. And as the story unfolds, when you read Matthew chapter 1, you see Rahab, Boaz's mother, is in the genealogy of Yeshua. You have Tamar in there too. We can find her in Genesis chapter 38. We find Bathsheba too. And what's interesting as you look at Bathsheba's story with David, you see in Matthew chapter 1, that genealogy, Matthew uses Solomon to highlight David's right, or Yeshua's right through David, the legal right for the throne. But Luke, in chapter 3, Luke he doesn't use Solomon, he used Nathan. Nathan is the son of Bathsheba, the youngest son, to highlight the biology of the kingdom. And I would expect a doctor to be looking at the biology. That's what Luke does. He uses Nathan rather than Solomon. And so, as I indicated, Solomon and Rahab were the parents of Boaz. And so it doesn't matter what your mother was or your father was, you could become a man or a woman of integrity too, even as Boaz here. So join me in chapter 3 of this little book. Then Naomi, her mother-in-law, said to her, my daughter, shall I not seek for thee a place to rest, in which it may be well with thee? Now therefore, is not Boaz our kindred, with whose maiden thou hast been? Lo, he is winnowing the barley threshing floor tonight. He's going to be winnowing, so it might do you good to be down there. I don't hear Ruth saying, for what purpose, Mom? Because Ruth is in this thing too. As I indicated earlier, what we're watching unfolding here is a marriage of redemption, because you then come into grips with the Levirate marriage principle, meaning that if the brother has died, it is the responsibility of the other brother of that family to provide an heir for the deceased so that the name doesn't get lost in things. And so Naomi, being wise and being a Hebrew woman, she's teaching this young woman how to live. I wish we had some more Naomi in our churches. I wish we had some, and even some more Ruths. I mean roots with roots, so that they can grow as strong trees in the church. Thou wilt therefore bathe thee and anoint thee, and put thine apparel on thee, and go down to the threshing floor. Do not make thyself known to the man until he's done eating. Make sure you fresh up yourself. And make sure you smell sweet, because you're going to meet this man. And it shall be when he lieth down that thou shalt mark the place where he doth lie, and shall go in and turn aside the covering of his feet, and lay thee down, and he will tell thee what thou shalt do. This is not the done thing. A woman doesn't belong there at this time of night. But she's taking instruction, because the Ruach is working here. And she said unto her, all that thou sayest, I will do. Remember, she's not accustomed to this kind of thing. So she went down to the threshing floor and did according to all that her mother-in-law had commanded her. And when Boaz had eaten and drunk, and his heart was glad, he went in to lie down at the end of the heap of corn. Then came she in softly, timidly, she crept in and turned aside the covering of his feet and lay down. And you can almost hear her thinking, help me make it through the night. And the Ruach is surely going to do that for her. It was now at midnight. That's what the word says. Verse 8, and it came to pass at the middle of the night that the man started up and turned, and lo, a woman lying at her feet. And he said, who art thou? And she said, I am Ruth, thy handmaid. Spread therefore thy wing over my handmaid, for a kinsman thou art. Did you hear what she said? She said, spread your skirt over me. Spread it. Who is teaching her? Naomi is teaching her. Go and tell the man at whatever time he gets up to spread his skirt over you, to cover you. Ruth is not really understanding these idioms, but she's following instruction. Come with me to the book of Ezekiel, chapter 16. And you know those two sisters in Ezekiel chapter 16. I'm here at verse 8, and the word says, and I passed by, this is Yah speaking, by thee, and looked unto thee, and lo, thy time was a time for endearment. It was a time for love. So I spread my skirt over thee, and cover thy shame, and took an oath to thee, and enter into a covenant with thee, declareth the Master Yahweh, and thou didst become mine. It's more than a proposition here. She's saying, take me to be wife. I want to be married to you. Not the man asking the woman asking the man, marry me. Marry me. That's what's happening. We better quickly get back to Ruth chapter 3, because we might miss the scene. And the romance that is developing, and I mean a righteous romance, It's here in the book. And it is showing you how decent people conduct themselves. Boaz did not fly past his nest at any time, even at midnight. He laid not a hold on her. Not this man. And he said, Who art thou? And she said, I am Ruth, thy handmaid. Spread therefore thy wing over thy handmaid, for a kinsman thou art. Redeem me. Redeem me in marriage. And she said, and he said, Blessed be thou art Yahweh, my daughter, for thou hast made thy last loving kindness better than the first, in not following after young men, whether poor or rich, because he was more advanced in years than she was. Now, therefore, my daughter, do not fear. Whatsoever thou shalt say, I will do for thee. For all the gate of the people thus know that a virtuous woman thou art. You can understand why in chapter 31 of Proverbs, when Solomon's mother is counseling him, she said, Who can find a virtuous woman? Boaz says, I can. And every man should be able to say that about his wife. Verse 12, and now, although it is true that a kinsman I am, yet there is one nearer than me. I can redeem you, and I'll be willing to do that, because I had kept my eyes on you in the field. I even told the reapers to drop some purposely so you could pick it up, because I have my eyes on you. I saw that you were virtuous, but, I cannot jump over what Yah wants me to do. I must wait my turn, because there's someone nearer than me. Someone nearer. Verse 13. Tarry the night, and it shall be in the morning, if he will act as kinsman to thee, well, let him so act. But if he incline it not to act as a kinsman to thee, then will I act to thee by Yahweh's sake. I will do it. By the life of Yahweh. Lie still until the morning. So she lie at his feet until the morning, and rose up before one could know his neighbor. And he said, Do not let it be known that a woman came to the threshing floor. Well, we don't want to start any rumors, because you know what the neighbors are like. So just leave quietly before the cocks are crowing and it becomes light. Don't bring yourself to rumors. And he said, Bring me the cloak that is up on thee, and hold it. So he held it and measured 6 measures of barley, and laid it up on her. And he went unto the city. And when she came unto her mother-in-law, she said, Who art thou, my daughter? And she said to her all that the man had done for her. And she said, These 6 measures of barley gave he unto me, for he said, Do not go in empty unto thy mother-in-law. And she said, Abide, my daughter, until that thou get to know how the matter will fall out. For the man will not rest except he finish the thing today. Now, the word says, he measured 6 measures of barley, and he gave to her in a cloak, and said to her, Give this to Naomi, your mother-in-law. Ruth doesn't understand this idiom. but she's following instructions. Come with me to the book of Bereshit. Bereshit, chapter 2. Bereshit, chapter 2. And we will read verse 1 and 2. Thus were finished the heavens and the earth and all their host. Thus Elohim finished on the seventh day his work which he had made, and rested on the seventh day from all the work which he had done. So when she gave the 6 measures of barley to Naomi, Naomi realized what the message was. It's a kind of a parable. The message was, this man Boaz will not rest until the matter is settled. Like Yahweh, he would not rest until he had created all of his creation. That's when he rested. But Ruth didn't understand this. And so you are just about ready now to join me in chapter 4. Now Boaz went up to the gate and sat him down there, and lo, the kinsman passing by, of whom Boaz had spoken. So he said, turn aside and sit down here, such a one. And he turned aside and sat down. Then fetched he 10 men of the elders of the city, and said, sir, sit down here. And they sat down. You see, they did business. They transact business at the city gate, even as Lot was when he saw the angels at the city gate. Now, by way of his status, it wouldn't surprise me greatly if Boaz here was mayor of this city, as Lot was a magistrate over in Sodom. Verse 4, and I thought I would unveil thine here, saying, take it over in presence of such as are here seated, and in the presence of the elders of my people, if thou wilt act as a kinsman. He's speaking to the near relative now, and he's saying, I would like you to redeem this woman Ruth, and redeem the land, because the land that is Elimelech, you got to understand in Israel how it was. You don't buy a land. Everything was leasehold. You would buy the lease of the land. And after a period of time, a member of your family could come and buy out the lease, and the land would be returned to you. You cannot understand the book of Ruth unless you understand the book of Revelation, particularly chapter 5. That's why Yahweh said in Leviticus, the land must not be sold. You can't sell it. The land is for the children of Israel. Let me say that again. The land are for the believers in Yeshua, who happens to be the children of Israel, not the ones who reject the Messiah. So if you be in Yeshua, Galatians 3:29, then are you Abraham's seed, and heir to the land. Heir to the land. That's Israel. Galatians 6:16, the Israel of Yah. And so he's saying, redeem her. But a man says, I could redeem the land, but something is stopping me doing that, redeeming her. Then said the kinsman, verse 6, chapter 4, I cannot act as a kinsman for myself, lest I Do what? Mar my own inheritance. Do thou for thyself and act as a kinsman in my right, for I cannot so redeem. Now, this aforetime was the way in which Israel, at the redeeming and at any exchanging to confirm every word, a man drew off his shoe and gave it to his neighbor. Yea, this was a way of taking a witness against Israel. This was in shame because he could not do what he was supposed to do. He's a kinsman, but he could not redeem it. So he had to take off his shoes in shame and say, I can't do it. Moses, take off your shoes. Because where you're standing here is sacred ground. Joshua, you do the same thing too. Shoe. Take it off. Then said Boaz, verse 9, to the elders and all the people, witnesses, are you today that I have taken over all that was Elimelech and all that was Chilion and Marlon from the hand of Naomi. Moreover, Ruth the Moabitess, wife of Marlon, have I taken over to my wife. Did you see that? He redeems the land and he redeems the woman, Ruth. Verse 11, then said all the people who were in the gate and the elders, witnesses, Yahweh grant the woman who is coming into thy house to be as Rachel and Leah, which two of them did build a house of Israel. Do you bravely then in Ephrath, and proclaim thou a name in Bethlehem, and let thy house be the house of Perez. Remember Perez, the son of Tamar, who wanted to maintain the name of Israel, so she hid herself behind some mask and was intimate with Judah. Wow. So Tamar bare Judah of the seed which may Yahweh give thee of the young woman. And so Boaz took Ruth, and she became the wife, became his wife, and he went into unto her, and Yahweh grant her conception, and she bare a son. Then the woman in Naomi blessed, the woman Naomi blessed be Yahweh, that's what she said, who hath not let thee fail a kinsman today, and may his name be proclaimed in Israel. So shall he become a restorer of the life and the nourisher of thine age. For thy daughter-in-law who loveth thee hath borne him, even she is better to thee than 7 sons. Now, take note of verse 16, reading on. And the word says, so Naomi took the boy and laid him in her bosom, and she became his nurse. That's how grandmothers should behave. And the women, her neighbors, gave him a name, saying, there is born a son of Naomi. So they called his name Obed. This is the father of Jesse, was the father of David. He was the father of Jesse, the father of David. Verse 18, these then are the generation of Perez. Perez begat Ezron, and Ezron begat Ram, and Ram begat Aminadab, and Aminadab begat Nashon, and Nashon begat Salmon, and Salmon begat Boaz, and Boaz begat Obed, and Obed begat Jesse, and Jesse begat David. That's 10 generations. So when you go back to Deuteronomy chapter 23, Yah says, a Moabite shall not come into my house until the 10th generation. So now David is born, they can come in. They can come in, anybody can come in, Moabite and Ammonite, if you accept Yeshua. Now come with me to the book of Isaiah. The book of Isaiah. Come with me there. because, yeah, it's teaching us. And if you find the 56th portion of that book, that's where I want to read. Isaiah chapter 56. Thus saith Yahweh, observe ye justice and execute righteousness, for near is my salvation to come, and the righteousness to be revealed. How happy and frail man, who doeth this? Yea, the son of earthborn, who firmly graspeth it, keepeth the Sabbath, lest he profane it, and keepeth his own hand from doing any, and from doing wrong. And let not the son of the foreigner, let not the pagan, let not the Gentile, who hath joined himself unto Yahweh, speak, saying, Yahweh will separate me from his people. Neither let the eunuch, let not the dry tree says, I can't go into the assembly anymore. He says, once you accept Yeshua, he says, I died a debt of redemption for you. I am the redeemer of blood. I was the one who carried the patibulum that was nailed on the tree, and they put their spear in my side, and water, which represents baptism, and the blood, which represent redemption. I am the redeemer of blood. You can come in. No one should stop you. And so you're about ready now for Revelation chapter 5, as we bring this to its conclusion. Revelation chapter 5, as Chizayon. And the word says, and I saw upon the right hand of him who was sitting upon the throne a scroll written within, and on the back sealed up with 7 seals. And I saw a mighty messenger proclaiming with a loud voice, who is worthy to open the scroll and who to loose the seals thereof? Remember, Satan stole the land, the earth, from Adam, in whose loins we were all tied up. So he's squatting. The land is not his. Remember, the land cannot be sold. The Redeemer of blood is the one who can claim the land back like Boaz did. And he has bought us, Yeshua has bought us, says Paul, the apostle, with his blood. We're his. He has redeemed us. And so I'm almost tempted to sing, will you help me to sing redemption song? Those old pirates, Satan, he took us away, and all they taught us was war and brutality. That's all they taught us. But we are going to sing redemption song. That old pirate, that devil, Satan. And so the word says, the question was asked, who is able to open the seal? Who has the title deeds of the land? And no one was able in heaven or on earth. Where is Adam? Where's Abraham? Where is Noah? Where is Seth? Where is Enoch? No one on earth was able to open the scroll or to look thereon. And I began to weep much because no one was found to open the scroll or to look thereon. And you also remember when Jeremiah was in prison in chapter 32, he bought a land while he was in prison because he knew the time would come when somebody from his family would come back and claim that land. The Redeemer, the kinsman Redeemer. Verse 5, and one of the elders said unto me, Johanan is saying this, do not weep, lo, the Lion that is the tribe of Judah, the root of Jesse, hath overcome to open the scroll and the 7 seals thereof. And I saw in the midst of his throne and in the four living creatures and in the midst of the elders a lamb standing, showing that it had been slain. Yes, he bought us with blood. This is the avenger of blood, the redeemer of blood, Yeshua HaMashiach. That's our topic today. But played out through the periscope of Ruth and Boaz, so we can understand that the prophets look forward to the redemption from sin, to save us from our sin, not in our sin. So we have a duty. We're obligated to listen to the Redeemer, even as Ruth listened to every word that Naomi was saying. You've got to understand that. The blood of the Lamb. And he came and at once took it out of the right hand of him that was sitting on the throne. And when he had took the scroll, the four living creatures and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, having one of the harp and bowls of gold full of incense, which are the prayers of the saints. And they sing a new song. They sang redemption song, saying, "Worthy art thou to take the scroll and open the seal thereof, because thou wast slain and did redeem unto Yahweh by the blood men out of every tribe." How many tribes? Every tribe and tongue and people and nation, and didst make them unto our Elohim a kingdom and priests, and they reign on the earth, not in heaven. They reign on the earth. That's what the word says. May we understand that there is no other Redeemer other than Yeshua HaMashiach, and he has purchased that. And he is that Tzedek. He is that Redeemer. He is that avenger of Hadam, of blood. In Yeshua's name, we thank him. And that's why we come today to celebrate this day, the day of the feast of Shavuot. In Yeshua's name, we thank him. Hallelujah.